Good evening. Welcome to Soni Irabor Live. Tonight we're dealing with issues regarding legality, jurisdiction, and administration of justice. But this time, focus is on somebody who is drawing attention to maladministration of justice and the need to create awareness to the extent that all and sundry will become better informed and become better qualified and also to participate in the process of ensuring that justice is administered correctly. I have a senior advocate of Nigeria here with me in the studio, Osaro Eghobamien, SAN. And he's going to take us through this process. But what did he mean by drawing attention? Well, come, I think, the 2nd of February, he will be running 42 kilometers with a group of people just to draw awareness. Well, if you look at him and look at me, you probably will know who can do 42 kilometers without any sweat and all of that. So I'm very glad to have you in the studio.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, sir.
Right. Well, what is this all about? Maladministration of justice. Running Olympics or what? Marathon. Okay.
No, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I thought that one should perhaps use sports to access the public and to draw attention to miscarriages of justice, maladministration of justice, and hopefully we should have a research center that actually develops policy, protocol that underpins everything we do. And this will take a period of time. The truth of the matter is that for you to have any effective change in the administration of justice, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a reorientation of those who are stakeholders within that profession. Okay. Therefore, I am running the 42 kilometers to actually demonstrate what it will take to get to the finish line.
Demonstrate what it will take to get to the finish line. Looking at it as if it's just a literary interpretation, that means, okay, he runs, we become more aware. But what is justice, first and foremost?
Wow.
To the ordinary man, what's justice? Because we hear justice, bandied all over the place.
I think the concept of justice philosophically is really just looking at how you resolve conflicts.
Okay.
And the confidence that is required by those who actually consume the service, the confidence that is required for you to actually take your dispute to a particular forum to be resolved. Now, with the resolution of conflicts in the way we understand it today, you have no choice. So you have to use the state organs, in other words, the courts ultimately. Of course, we have alternative dispute resolution, but you ultimately have to use the court, and you're constrained to use it. My experience is that those who are having to use the courts, whether they're the claimants or the defendants, when they actually get out of the system, they are totally dissatisfied. And in the past, what we've had is that lawyers, especially lawyers, arrogant in their ways, would effect reforms or consider reforms without taking into account those who actually consume the service. So the confidence...
So who are those that consume the service now?
The public.
Public, okay. Right.
It's a service delivery product. Okay. That's what people have to understand. So those of us in commercial practice, you just need to understand that I invest in a particular venture. If there is a problem, and there would always be a problem, how will it be resolved? Now, the extent to which this affects foreign investment, you will not even begin to imagine. Okay. That when foreigners look inwards, they say to themselves, just in case I have a problem, I have this huge capital investment, what will happen? Am I confident enough that it will be resolved fairly? Am I confident enough that there will be respect for the rule of law? Am I confident that there will be fairness? All these adjectives I've used are replicit in a marathon. You have to respect the rules. There are no cutting of corners, and there has to be fair play, and you must be transparent about it because you must have been practicing for a number of years.
But we're in a season where a lot of questions are being asked about what is happening, how is justice applied, and unfortunately, right now, the judiciary is in the eye of the storm. So how... It seems very timely, the way you present this.
It's coincidental, but it's actually timely. And let me explain it this way. If you look at the Bar Association, for example, it doesn't have a policy or a protocol about behavior. And what I mean by that is that the behavioral pattern coincides with the criminal law. In other words, the president of the bar will simply say, I have not been convicted and therefore I can be president. If you had protocols and principles and philosophy that drives the concept, then you will say, no, we have rules. You don't have to be indicted before you recruit yourself from being leader of the bar. The fact that those rules are within a set of group of people, if you fall or if you are deviant of that particular rule, then you cannot assume a certain position. In fact, you'll be expelled from that association. So let me give you an analogy. Say, Bill Clinton.
Okay.
He was never really criminally indicted, but the bar to which he belongs says, look, your behavior was such that we will not permit you to be a member of this bar for the next 1 or 2 years. In other words, there's a misconduct according to our rules. And that is a philosophy that drives it, that we have rules that are standards higher than the criminal law. Whereas in Nigeria, you have nothing like that. So what this center will be doing is really policy, principle, developing policy and principle that drives what professionals do, especially professional lawyers.
We all went to law school, right?
Yeah.
Before then, you studied law in the tertiary in university.
Yes.
Okay. Now, it is expected that in practice, you have to understand just the rule of law, what is expected of you, the ethics and the ethos. How do you now tell me that these did not come into practice before he became even a responsible, respectable practitioner?
Well, what you have in the law school is a recital of the rules. It's a recital. Whether we live by it when we come to practice is a totally different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is that in your practice, you must live the ethics. In the laws that are passed, the philosophy that drives that law must have a particular principle that we all agreed upon. So therefore, there's a parameter upon which we operate. Right now, we just recite those principles in law school. That's all you do. And it means it's meaningless. Because
you're
when
saying
you
in fact that it's not properly practiced?
Of course. When you're faced with the tests, when you come into practice, you fall apart. And that's because the state itself doesn't imbibe those philosophies or principles.
Okay. All right. Judiciary is in the eye of the storm. A lot of things have happened in 1 week, actually.
Yeah.
CJN indicted, CJN suspended, and somebody else brought in and appointed acting CJN. Now, what does this mean so soon, just before the elections?
Well, this is a very sensitive
yes, before you even go further, there's a lot of hue and cry.
Yeah.
I should add that, so that we don't know how does this affect the process?
Well, I think the debate here is very interesting. And for many of us, we're cautious. We're cautious because when you make a statement of this nature where it involves judges or a judge, you may unintentionally alienate that judge or judges who actually take a different view from the view you take. And that's why you see quite a number of practitioners who take a particular position and they're public about it. There are many who take a different view. There are two sides to the issue.
Okay.
The facts are still unfolding as to how the injunction was obtained in the Code of Conduct Bureau. We don't know that fact. But what we do know is that the Chief Judge, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, his account was published everywhere. We also know that he said that there was an error in terms of his memory as regards the foreign accounts.
Meaning that he admitted to the error?
That's what we've read, and I think no one has denied it yet. So we will discuss an assumption that that is correct. Again, one has to be careful. We know that fact. We also know now that the president actually proceeded to rely on an order that we're here. I haven't seen that order from the Code of Conduct Bureau.
Okay.
And as a result, he suspended the Chief Justice of Nigeria and swore in the deputy, the second in command. Now, you've had a catalog of issues, but for me, I'll perhaps restrain myself to the professional part.
Okay.
I qualified to practice in England, and where there is that sort of allegation against the chief judge, if ever it will happen in the UK, he would immediately resign.
Okay.
In China, I was discussing this with one of my colleagues. In China, actually, he might get shot. In Japan, he probably will commit suicide.
Wow.
In the UK or in America, in Europe, he would resign, as I said. And in America, the Senate will immediately reconvene to look into the matter. The circumstance in which the chief judge comes to accumulate wealth way beyond his earnings. And I think there's need to focus a lot on that. And then you put every other thing in context, because I also think that the executive may have acted recklessly in the way in which he was suspended. But you need to look at the totality of the facts, the catalog of facts. So I used an anecdote the other day. I said, what has happened is perhaps at the highest level, the chief judge may have bent the law in preventing himself from being investigated. The executive has broken the law.
Okay, we'll take a short break now and look at how this whole process is unfolding. Nigeria in the eye of the storm is the kind of headline you probably will be seeing in most news platforms and all of that. But we'll be right back after the break.
Make your event a memorable one with captivating and well-organized event center at Lagos Television's prestigious Blue Roof, with a capacity of more than 3,000 seats and a fully air-conditioned 750 seats combo hall capacity, suitable for annual general meetings, government functions, exhibitions, religious activities, wedding ceremonies, burials, musical show, and many more in a well-secure environment. Spacious car park, uninterrupted power supply, and impeccable facilities. Take advantage of all of these at affordable rates.
For inquiries, please call 0808 252 8742 or 0802 282 9898.
Lagos Television Event Center, a tasteful event center for your delight.
Welcome back. Soni Irabor Live is looking at scenarios that will unravel the questions and answers that need further clarification. That's why we bring, people of the like minds up, the people like the senior advocate who is here with me, Osaro Eghobamien. And there's no doubt that definitely this is a very controversial issue. And so we expect that objectively we'll look at it, because we're going to throw the lines open for you now. The number will be on the screen. Call. But as we expect your calls, we also will be continuing with the discussion. Right, let's go back to the marathon, maladministration of justice. It's a big risk you're taking, isn't it?
Well, if you're prepared, and this is what we're trying to tell people, for everything you need to do, you need to be prepared. Last 2 weeks Sunday, I ran 42 kilometers. I'm mentally prepared, I'm physically prepared, and I'm spiritually prepared.
Okay, amen to that. Should somebody like me try to be as prepared as you think you can be?
That might be the average, not the typical Nigerian, because I believe the typical Nigerian prepares. Okay. The average Nigerian might not prepare for a race like that. That would be dangerous. You need to have done it once or twice, because your body mass is affected by that length of time just continuously running. So you need to be, you need to have your body mass intact, and you need to have practiced, and you needed to have seen your doctor before you embark on that exercise. But it doesn't take away anything from the fact that it is an odious task. It is tough. Just imagine that you do 10 kilometers in 1 hour, you do another 10 in 1 hour, and then, on average, I think I do it for 4 hours, 30 minutes. I'm hoping to do it
every 4 hours, yes. Every hour. That makes times 4, okay. 42 kilometers. Right. Good. there are senior advocates that are of older generation.
Yes.
What's their reaction to the unfolding drama and the kind of thought you're putting into this?
All right, I'm bringing my father to finish the race with me.
Your father?
Yes,
is a senior advocate?
correct.
Okay.
And he's 83.
83. Oh.
I'm also bringing Pastor Wigwe, who is the father of Herbert Wigwe,
Okay.
to join him. They're best of friends. And they will both be finishing
And Pastor
the race.
is also in his 80s as well.
He's 84.
84.
He's 1 year older
Okay,
than my father.
Okay.
So they're both going to be finishing the race with me. And it's symbolic, because what we're trying to say, the old tradition, and not just the old tradition at the bar, but the old tradition about ethics.
Hello, good
so
evening.
Combine of the bar and ethics as represented
Hello,
by
good
Pastor
evening.
Wigwe will be finishing the race. And
Hello,
passing
good
on the
evening.
baton to continue the struggle.
Hello.
Okay. I'm told we have a call. Hello, good evening.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Go ahead. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, my name is Yemi. I'm calling from Agege.
Okay.
Good evening, sir.
Yes,
ahead.
good evening.
My name is Yemi. I'm calling from Agege.
Just go ahead.
Please. Okay. I want San to briefly explain what the issue on ground. Is President wrong with suspending the CGA?
Okay. You heard the question, did you?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. So he's going to answer that straight away. He said, is the president wrong in suspending the CJN?
Well, you know, I need to be careful here. It appears, and again the facts are unfolding. As lawyers, we're very careful. Two things, let me explain. First of all, as lawyers, we tend not to go into fine details about the matter in court. And that is one of the principles that we've all thrown overboard now. And this is what I'm trying to bring back, that there are certain principles that you apply. The matter is in court. We're not sure the circumstance in which this order was obtained from the CCB. But I can tell you one thing, the removal of a siege is a very complicated matter. It doesn't look to us from a distance that he could have followed the law. It's most unlikely that that happened, regardless of the fact that we're here, that there was an order from a court of record. There's an argument whether or not that court of record is a superior court of record. So I think from a distance, not going into, it looks as if it was outside the Constitution, without going into very fine details on the issue.
Okay. Right. So again, you said you're being cautious in
Yes.
answering that. When cases are in court, no wonder. They say when cases are in court, you don't discuss it publicly, don't make it an issue. But then journalism or news gathering has to be a role that must be played
Yes.
accordingly. All right. Back to the awareness creation marathon.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. That startled me. How are you? Good evening.
I'm very well. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Emmanuel, and I'm calling from Isolo.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the whole thing, I want to be part of the discussion that is ongoing.
Yes.
I find it extremely difficult to believe, because here in Nigeria, everybody talks about fighting corruption. And each time issue like this come up, we throw away the substance and begin to politicize it. Like the son in your studio rightly said, if we were to be in a place like America or in UK, the person in question should have immediately resigned. Now, what I want the son to clarify, even if the president didn't take this step, will it be right for the CJN to be the judge in his own trial or to be the judge in his own investigation? Will it be right for him to be in the office while the investigation is on, so that will put all these politics aside and rest the case? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, that's straightforward.
Right. I think, thank you for that. And perhaps one of the things I didn't mention is that one of the areas that we'll be looking at is how we create a mechanism that helps to deal with complaints against lawyers as well as judges. That mechanism must be independent, it must be transparent, and it must be accessible. The honest truth is that in the absence of an independent mechanism that deals with complaints against lawyers and judges, you are going to have frustrations from external body, including the executive, and they will probably act recklessly. So, and that is out of frustration, because if a man is alleged to have misconducted himself, and there is nobody to audit that misconduct, that misconduct on his part, then you would have a crisis, which is what you now have. So I totally agree with you that the structures today, the structures were perhaps made at a time when those who occupy those positions were entirely above board. But today those structures are now weak. So we have to look for better structures that will deal with complaints effectively and reinforce confidence in the system.
And the allegations that there are other, hierarchy people in the judiciary that may also have similar cases like the CJN. So how are such cases handled?
That's the problem. That's why we've got to where we are. The present position is that, at least as the law stands today, that if there's a complaint against a judicial officer, now, that complaint, and the way it is being interpreted, even though I don't agree with it, complaint regarding anything whatsoever, I take the view that if there's a complaint regarding judicial misconduct, the first place you go to is the NJC.
Okay.
Now, the NJC is occupied by a number of judges, and the chief judge...
NJC would be the National Judicial Commission.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And the Chief Justice of Nigeria sits as the head of that institution. He calls a meeting when he wants to. So if there's a complaint against anyone, for that matter, who has an overbearing influence over that particular organization, you're not likely to have a situation where it will be perceived that there's a fair hearing. And in law, perception is reality.
Oh.
So if you have that sort of thing, I think it's now time for us to reconsider the mechanism by which you deal with complaints against lawyers and judges.
Now, let me bring in some reaction by a very well-known person, former president of the NBA, Osaro Eghobamien, SAN, who said that the timing was wrong. Yeah. And so the government should not have been so quick as to, rewrite the process like this. Why don't they follow the due process? He kept saying that. Now, what does it mean, and do you agree with that also?
Well, because these issues have a strong political undertone. I've been reading a lot on social media about this, and the executive, rightly or wrongly, does not trust the Chief Justice to superintend over the political cases that will come. So I see a political undertone.
Good evening.
And therefore...
Good evening. How are you?
Can I go on?
Yes, go ahead. Your name and place of call. Your name and where you're calling from. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Godwin. I'm calling from Uyo.
Uyo, okay. That's in Akwa Ibom State. Go ahead.
Yes. Okay, my question goes like this. Am I on with the SN?
Yes, we're both on the screen. You can see us.
Okay. We are discussing about this removal of suspension of CGN, so to speak.
Yes.
What I want to ask the senior advocate is that the way he's talking, I'm quite surprised. Because first and foremost, the Constitution is the supreme organ. The supreme organ on which the country is run. Okay. Is there a way in the Constitution where it is written that the executive or the president, for that matter, can single-handedly suspend the CGN? Question mark that you have to answer.
Okay.
2, in law, this law procedure is as important as the substantive law. I repeat myself. Law procedure is as important as the substantive law.
Okay.
If the CGN was under investigation, the process by which it's removed, is it lawful or it's unlawful? Because it's only away from that part. This is on lawful. You see, it's a judiciary, and it's a judiciary under the executive. So I don't know exactly what the senior advocate is talking about as going around the matter. I want to be careful with request further examination. The international community, the European Union, the UK, and the USA, which are the front line of the Western world, have made a clarification on this issue, though not directly, that the rule has to be followed.
Okay.
Why is it only the CBN that does not declare who fails to declare its asset? What about others? Why is the focus on the CBN at this critical time when they are in the process of swearing in the electoral tribunal?
Okay.
So it looks suspicious in all ramifications. What we are saying in essence is that no matter the conduct of the CBN, there are mechanisms that are in place that have to be followed, that have to be addressed. Why was this circumvented?
Okay.
Why is it that the court of the
before you sermonize, can I stop you there? Thank you
hello?
very much. Thank you very much. We've had enough, and I want to give the senior advocate a chance to now respond to the various points you've raised. Thank you. Just for time factor. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. And the gentleman is very clear that the Constitution may have been stretched to breaking limits. And don't take anything away. That may be correct. I just try to put the issues in perspective that, and I want to focus on my profession, the way I see it. So there is form and substance. I don't want us to run away from either. That's the point I'm making. It is true that the Constitution may have been circumvented, and I say I want to see all the facts before I make a categorical statement about that. And then the law is clear. The president cannot just act. That's why I said the executive may have acted recklessly. But I did say very clearly that you must put it in context. Never before has the Chief Justice of Nigeria been so exposed. And you see, I watched Robert Clerk, who is a senior advocate, the other day, and he said very clearly, and not that I agree with him, he said all the justices in the Supreme Court were corrupt. Now, when you get to a point where you can talk about your judge like that, or justices in the Supreme Court, then the system has broken down completely. Now, what Robert Clerk said, under normal circumstances, should be contemptuous. But unfortunately, the Chief Justice cannot call him for contempt because it appears that he has monies in his account that are over and above what he could justify as his wages. Now, I need to tell you how it works abroad. As I said, I qualify to practice in the UK. In Australia, a judge is required to make returns of how he spends his money. In the UK, there's subtle ways of investigating how the judge spends his money. In America, there's a trust that deals with how the judge spends money. That's because judges are constantly exposed to all types of temptations. In Nigeria, it is left to the probity of the judge. And all I'm saying is that you've got to a position where, as a result of this effective mechanism, checks and balances, the executive has now acted recklessly. Now, let me give the gentleman a scenario. The NJC, as we hear, again, a lot of rumor was to be, there was a scheduled meeting which was then postponed, I hear. So it was adjourned because, we don't know why it was adjourned, but it's possible that perhaps the deliberations may not have favored one party or the other. But whatever it is, it was adjourned. Now, the perception is that it was adjourned because the Chief Justice did not want himself investigated. So when you block all the avenues that is necessary to investigate a particular issue anywhere in the world, you're going to have chaos and you're going to have recklessness.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening. How are you? What's your name?
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine. Go ahead.
I'm Professor Amos Awodi. I'm calling from Nasarawa State.
Okay.
I want to contribute.
Yes, go ahead.
Now, the senior advocate of Nigeria should agree with me that law has to lean on culture and religion. These are very, very important.
Correct.
culture in the sense that, look at Kemi Adeosun's case. He was alleged of falsifying ordinary paper. He was delivering, he was acting, he was performing. But ordinary paper is kept aside. But nobody can do this in the part of the country where we are. It's only Yoruba that have name to protect. Causing problem as number one citizens of the law, of the judiciary, is a chain to the progression of law. Lawyers are shameless. We don't know what to call them. They are causing problems. Secondly, this man goes to church. Apart from the fact that you are supposed to know that you don't have to soil your hand in illegal things. He goes to church. The pastor or the reverend of the church cannot tell him that he is guilty. The moment you are indicted, he agrees that it's error. What error? That is my contribution. I'm not happy with the lawyers. We don't have lawyers in Nigeria. We don't have lawyers, judges in Nigeria. Okay, let us assume that this thing happen now. What about if we have all suspects in detention, not to attend court, to disagree?
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. That's a powerful one. One from Uyo, this one, and from Nasarawa. Okay.
Yes, the gentleman who just spoke, regrettably, I do agree with him that the public has lost total confidence in lawyers. Lawyers don't seem to understand that. And let me focus more on lawyers, because you see, I did say earlier on that speaking about the judges, you could easily alienate yourself and cause offense where it is not intended, especially because I'm going to be appearing before some of the judges tomorrow. Let me focus on the lawyers and the NBA. You have a situation where the NBA president today is being, he has a criminal charge. Now, from what we hear, he has a criminal charge against him. Now, from what we hear, these investigations were on long before he took office. He was not nominated. He actually went in for an election, and he was voted in. What that means is that the values and the principles that are necessary to practice law, regrettably, is now absent. This is the philosophy I was talking about. And that's what the professor just said. Once you are alleged to have committed a crime, you've not been proven guilty, what we should have is a mechanism, say, let's actually review this allegation. And because it's an allegation, we'll be careful. But we have to review it. We have to have an internal mechanism to say, look, the nature of the allegation is so grave, and that please don't run for this office. We don't have that mechanism. So you now have today where the head of the bar is being charged with a criminal offense. The Chief Justice of Nigeria is facing the problem which everyone now knows. And a majority, well, the National Executive Council of the Bar seems to have said that the President of the Bar should continue. That is, I am bound by those decisions, but it's really rather unfortunate. I would have expected that the values that are necessary to practice law calls for us to ask the NBA president to quietly step aside, whilst the bar will be united to deal with this problem. The bar is not united.
So then there's it's an interesting phenomenon that's developing, and honestly, what worries me is how Nigeria will be seen outside and within. So, well, if I look at Nigeria the way it has been over the years, rule of law has always been so questioned, and it appears it's coming to a head. What does this then mean going forward? Elections around the corner, and we're talking about a month-long elections that may be followed by a series of litigations and issues, tribunals and all of that. So between now and May, what do you see of Nigeria?
I think the parties will have to come together and find a solution. The signs are not very good. There's no one.
I'm surprised too that the National Assembly hasn't said anything. I hear they're meeting on Tuesday. Hello,
Hello.
Good evening. Yes, how are you?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. How are
Yeah.
you?
Please, can you hear me?
Yes. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Go ahead.
I'm Adeomi calling from Lagos.
Okay. Go
I
ahead.
think first thing we need to find out is that justice Onogen, does he commit crime or not? One. Then two, I don't believe any bad precedent is being set, because if you remember the case of Justice Salami, he didn't commit any crime. PDP government removed this gentleman. Court said he should be reinstated. They refused to reinstate him until he retires. Two. Then three. Are we saying that when a minister that is an accountant by profession, are you people hearing me? Please?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yes, that an accountant by profession committed asset declaration offense, we should send him to HICAN, and if the person is a medical doctor, we should send him first to Medical Council. When we have a tribunal dealing with asset declaration offenses, please, let's face the facts. And as an honorable person, I think they should have resigned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What a nation, what a country. Thank you. Good.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Adeyemi, I totally agree with you. There is a particular honor that is exhibited in our practice. You know, as lawyers and judges, we are close to God. In other words, we are entrusted by people's assets, we're entrusted by people's confidences. As a result, we are permitted to do certain things that no one else can do. We can pass judgment on another man. You can send a man to death. As a result, you are expected to exhibit the highest standards of values and morality, to occupy the bench, even to practice as a lawyer. You take an oath. Now, we're getting to a position in Nigeria where we can't even define the policies, and that's why we are disagreed. The parameters within which we operate should be defined. And I totally agree that under those circumstances, and it's more a question, the Chief Justice ought to resign. Again, as I said, because we don't have protocols and policies, everything we'll do is related to the criminal law. In other words, converge with the criminal law. And what you hear within the bar is, the bar president has not been convicted. Where in the world do you converge criminal law with the rules and standards of association? There's nowhere. You can be expelled from the association regardless of the fact that you've not been convicted of a crime. So the absence of policy, and I want to go back to why I'm here. I know this.
Yes.
So the absence of policy, the absence of protocols is, I think, what is lacking. So you have people who've come into the profession who don't understand what it takes to practice law. Or for that matter, sometimes maybe to be elevated, because it all starts at the bar. What we want to do, what I want to do, is to run 42 kilometers to demonstrate what it takes, and then hopefully we can have policies and protocols that are embedded in everything we do, defined principles.
Okay. Well, what date is that?
It's on the 2nd of February, and I'm asking everyone to support this initiative because, again, we've left it to the civil servants and government to help with reforms in administration of justice. What we want to do now is have certain people in the private sector who are recognized to practice with a certain level of integrity. I think that's the point. Those will be the people pushing the reforms, not myself. I don't run an NGO, but I'm going to catalyst it, bring lawyers together, bring persons from outside the practice together to help us with this.
So where is the race starting from, or where is it ending?
It's starting from Stadium in Surulere.
Okay.
We're going to run to Ikorodu Road and then go to Oworoshoki and then come all the way down to Third Mainland, get onto Foreshore. From Foreshore, we get onto Alexander to Bodilon, and then you get on the bridge, get into Lekki, Phase 1. Lekki Phase 1 takes you to the main gate, and then you start running to a law school. And then from law school, you run to the island, and then the island, you go into the Eco-Atlantic.
Okay, so if you have all the power and the interest in ensuring that rule of law is maintained and really, really projected to the fore, please be part of this, because it's for you. It's for the private sector, it's for the public, it's for government officials, it's for everybody. Rule of law must prevail. Thank you so much, Osaro Eghobamien, SAN.
Thank you for having me.
And for Soni Irabor Live, you people that have called in and those who are always watching, we will get better and better, and I promise you, we will always unravel what seems to be so difficult. Thank you for being with us, and good night.